Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Jaunty Mantis. I'm Jesse, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Matty.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me back.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to these steaming, fetid jungles full of Season 5 dinosaurs and tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Let's create some stuff with dinosaurs in mind.
So with our experimental new season theme outline, we will follow the same sort of general process. And this is episode 5 where we create things using the theme. And I have, oh man, I just love running with like a weird idea because I cannot wait to tell you about it. Do you want to go first?
I'm very excited to hear your ideas because I decided to go very safe with this. I made mine for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
What?
Because it's the world's most popular role-playing game and it gets the clicks. But also, I decided like the weirder I get, the more complex I get, the more unbalanced or out of left field or weird or unwieldy it gets. So I decided to put serious restraints on myself, which I think I did a pretty good job with. And we will see once we get. Now, I made a bunch of shit. I made a magic weapon. I made a warlock patron using the theme of dinosaurs.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear about that.
A paladin oath using dinosaurs. I made a like primeval domain, if you're a cleric. And then, I decided to honor the Vin Diesel Afterbirth class that is the Blood Hunter. And I also made an order for the Blood Hunter using the theme. What did you make? Rough overview.
Well, you mentioned Vin Diesel, so all I can think about is that great line from the movie Triple X where he says, "All the things I'm going to do to you for my country." And I'm hoping that's the experience that I get.
You're going to feel it in your balls.
Okay.
It's just like that movie.
Well, that's where magic is stored. If you've been reading Wheel of Time, magic is in the balls.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong Triple X movie. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, you remember how I said, wouldn't it be kind of crazy if I made like a demi-plane of dread with a dinosaur for a dreadlord?
Yes.
Well, I did that.
Fantastic. Well, okay, so how about we get my dumb, boring shit out of the way? Because I want to hear more about what you did.
Okay.
So which one of these things should I start with? Which one of the things that I mentioned seems most interesting to you out of mediocrity?
I know the least about blood hunters.
Oh, great. That makes 2 of us.
So I want to hear about that one.
Yeah, so the Blood Hunter, and people online, I'm sure, know this way better than me. I'm not a big Vin Diesel guy. I'm not a big Critical Role person. I have way more respect for Critical Role and the people who are into it than I do for
Vin Diesel.
Well, no, not Vin Diesel, but just like for any actual play. Like, I'm not a fan of actual play, but I love the fact that it exists. I love that that's entertainment, and I love that those nerds have been able to, enter into more mainstream media. There's the Amazon show, that like they've become a household name in nerd circles. And I think that's awesome. And I love any contribution nerds can make to popular culture and mainstream culture in general. So when I meet somebody who says that Vox Machina thing, do you know anything about that? And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I actually do. Like, so I just want to state that up front, and my understanding is that Vin Diesel, when he decided to play a session or two or whatever with the Critical Role people, they made a class for him called the Blood Hunter. And I was like, oh, how fortunate, because we could all relate, getting a specialized class made just for us.
Yeah.
Based on one of our terrible movie ideas or movie characters based on our Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that's it. So that's basically the idea. At its best, it's the entry of something like The Witcher into the D&D milieu. or like like a werewolf hunter or a monster hunter, just on surface. I'm sure there's nerds out there that know this way better than I do, and can leave their comments in the comments. But basically, the blood hunter imbibes on potions or blood mixtures or awakens their blood magic, and then takes on these gruesome, monstrous aspects. They have like an order of the lichen, they have a mutation version, they have a bunch of cool ideas, but you could see where they pulled them from popular culture. And I don't have a problem with that at all. But I was like, what if, we made a dinosaur themed one, like an Order of the Saurian. So blood hunters of the Order of the Saurian, and they revere the lost might of the great prehistoric beasts and predators. They use their own blood magic to like awaken these primal forces within themselves, and they embody things like the endurance of behemoths and the cunning of raptors and the raw fury of the apex predators, Jesse. That kind of shit, right? So, third level is when blood hunters start to get their subclass benefits. So we start with something called Predator's Mark, and it's basically you learn to channel the ancient instincts of a primal predator. And when you use their blood hunter's crimson right on a weapon, you gain a certain number of benefits. You get an increase in movement speed, you get advantage on wisdom saving throws, wisdom survival checks to track creatures. When you hit a creature with like a weapon attack, you can choose to mark them with your predator's mark, and the marked creature then has disadvantage on checks, if they're trying to like get away from you or hide from you. So just basic simple stuff that kind of like feeds into, that whole apex predator or hunter kind of thematics.
That I like that mark thing. It reminds me of one of the things I feel like it's pretty like, and obviously we're not reinventing the wheel here. So like, this is not like, I'm not knocking you on this one, but like some of the stuff originally with like the Ranger in 2014 with like some of the favored terrain stuff. Like, I think a lot of that was implied that with those like favored terrains, you'd run your campaign in there. And then like, for some reason, a bunch of DMs were like, I've got a Ranger in my game. I'm not going to bother to be in the favored terrain this person told me they wanted to play in. And so that stuff became useless. And I think that's a wasted opportunity to engage with someone. So I love the idea. Like, I think if you're DMing for someone who's playing this, like the Saurian Order of Blood Hunter, that like, you definitely need to have like situations where someone's running away, like a monster is running away and they have to track it. So that has some mechanical teeth. And I like that idea. Like, it's going to be hard for you to get away. I've got your blood scent now.
And I'm picturing the kinds of encounters where, you want to run a chase encounter, or you want this character to be able to sniff someone out or find them or make it difficult for them to get away from them in combat, like.
Maybe like your prey is like a little girl who's escaped you and now she's eating Jello. So you're going to put your nose up against a window and just go.
Yes. Yes. And I am not offended by the comments of similarity or sameness. That was the whole point. Generally speaking, when I create something, I kind of like take it to the nth degree and make it either unfathomable or unplayable. And I wanted to really stick within the core value of 5e as a system. Like, I wanted to actually make something that might appeal to a 5e player or a DM. Like, let's say you have let's say you want to use this particular sect of blood hunters in your Dinosaur Primeval game. Maybe it's a tribe of hunters, Maybe it is an order of dinosaur hunters specifically. I want to keep it within that kind of sameness, because I figure if I'm going to run a 5e game, and I have been, I want to put something in the game that adds to the world and the universe and the mechanics in a way that if somebody was like, hey, I'm thinking about playing something, I'd like to do something a little more in setting. Do you have any ideas? for that, and that's those were my primary goals with this. The next part, speaking of the teeth aspect of it that you mentioned earlier, the blood hunter of the Order of the Saurian at 7th level gets a Beastial transformation. Their blood magic begins to reshape them, and they manifest the traits of like great dinosaurs. And when you finish your short or long rest, you can choose one of the following adaptations to manifest for like the next hour. And that's like one of the cool key features of the Blood Hunter is it just, at least on a cursory surface level observation, is they can take on these temporary transformations. I think of like the Witcher drinking like the potion to help him in whatever upcoming fight he has to prepare for it. So they can like get a behemoth's hide, which gives them resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. They can get like Raptor's reflexes, where they gain a bonus to initiative rolls and opportunity attacks. And then they can also get like the Tyrant's Maw, which gives them like a bite, like a natural weapon attack, like a bite attack that deals like 1d10 piercing damage plus their strength modifier. And then I was
feedback?
Like, yeah, sure.
So I love the idea of having a bite attack. It's just how it stacks with weapons at that level. Like, okay. I think maybe like as a bonus action, they can make a bite attack or like they bite when they strike. If they hit, they bite as well, doing like additional, like that much. So it's just a damage adder rather than a thing that swaps out, because they're probably already going to be pretty optimized into their weapon at that point.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah.
But definitely, sure. I love the idea of swinging a sword and following up as your face turns into like a T-Rex's jaws and you just chomp on something.
Yeah, I mean, like really get into the, you are a dinosaur kind of aspect of it. At 11th level, they get Relentless Apex. Their bodies adapted to mimic the legendary endurance of like ancient titans, and they gain like benefits. Like when they drop to 0 hit points, they can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or drop to 1 hit point instead. I found that and cross this part off your bingo card in Baldur's Gate 3. When you were playing I think an orc, half orc, or when you're fighting like with some of those enemies, like the undead enemies, or there's some specific enemies that when you would have downed them, they get 1 hit point. And I always thought that was really cool. I don't know how extensively that is in regular Dungeons and Dragons or 2014 or 2024. It sounds like with zombies, but I really like that. So I thought that would be kind of a cool feature to throw into this. They also have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or paralyzed. And if they take the dash action, they can ignore difficult terrain, and then they can move through enemy spaces as if they were allies. Now, I don't know how broken that is. I kind of tried to visualize what that would look like in 3rd edition. Big surprise there. That's the system I'm most familiar with. And we had done some gaming with our group in person, and the subject of opportunity attacks came up a lot because we were doing my 3rd edition Heartbreaker. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if for just a moment you could treat enemies as if they were allies to move through their squares, right? Their spaces. And would that be totally game breaking? Probably, but like, fuck it. Let's just throw it into this and kind of just see what happens. Just talk about it. What do you think?
No, I like that. I think it opens up some new tactical abilities and lets you set things up in ways that are like engaging for the players. And I think that's what we're looking for with any sort of combat abilities. I also had this like random thought that popped into my head that I think you just reinvented Incarnum, but for 5e.
You know what? That would be on brand for this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like I'm curious. I feel like I want to do a tie-in with your Blood Hunter to my Domain of Dread.
Oh,
Like
perfect.
maybe this is where they came from, or it's tied
Oh,
to the
wow.
origin story. So like obviously if someone was playing this, I'd have to be like, you're gonna take a little jaunt somewhere else. So
That'd be awesome. At 15th level, they get their primal apex form. You know, they have unlocked the full might of their prehistoric power. And as a bonus action, they can unleash their primal nature for, I never know what a good amount of time for these things to occur is. You know, a couple of rounds seems too little. You know, in between short rest seems like too long. So I just said for 1 minute, and then they gain the following benefits. They can increase their size by one category, so medium to large or large to huge. Their movement speed increases by 20 feet. Their melee weapon attacks and unarmed strikes deal an additional 1d8 like damage. And this is where I was having like, what kind of damage should it be? I want it to be special. Should it be force damage? Should it be necrotic? Should it be psychic? I don't know. But 1d8 damage, we'll just say force damage. And then also, if you make a weapon attack against a creature that is frightened, prone, or grappled, you make the attack roll with advantage. I really tried to stay within what 5e is instead of trying to create something new in 5e. Does that make any sense?
yeah, no, I like it. And I think I have a question about that. So remind me the advantage against frightened. Is there a cause fear ability that I'm just spacing on?
Let me see. There was in the original design of that, and I might have accidentally left this in. There was
Because if they have
originally.
a way to like make them frightened and then get advantage on that, I think I think at 15th level, damage type doesn't really matter much anymore because everything you're going to be fighting, you either going to have so many different ways to throw different damage types at it,
Okay.
or it's going to have so many resistances as to make that kind of a moot point. Like I think you could just make it like slashing, or like if you wanted to
Okay.
lean into like lean into a theme a little bit more, like dinosaurs are scary and this guy
Hmm.
becomes a big scary dinosaur. You could have it be psychic damage just because it's like fear. So then it
Right.
doesn't work against mindless undead, but like it also
Right.
is a lot harder to resist for everything else. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think where that came from was, if I'm remembering correctly, hopefully I don't fuck this up, but in the original Beastial transformation, the 7th level ability, the Tyrant's Maw, which was that extra bite attack, I had originally made it that they could attempt to grapple the target as part of the same action. And I
Mhm.
removed that because I kind of felt like that was a little bit overpowered. I mean, 7th level, you unlock some really cool shit, but with everything else they were getting, up to that point, I was afraid that might be a bit too much. So I ended up
Yeah.
scrapping it from the initial thing. So I think that's what this was supposed to tie into, because the previous ability I just mentioned was like frightened or panicked or grappled. And this thing could, with that tyrant's maw, could grapple as a part of their bite attack.
This is the fun part about this episode for me, and this goes back, I think, to like some of the original conversations we had at Deluxe Diner in Chicago that like were the earliest non-recorded versions of this podcast. Like I just love the challenge of this design thinking. Like, what's the theme?
Right.
Like how do we tie into that theme? We made a change at this point. What are the ramifications down the line? It's just really I like it a lot. And this is why I like the mechanics of the game.
Yes. Yes. And the other challenge is clarity and communication of ideas, because it's one thing to make something and it's another to make something that somebody actually wants to play.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stuff in every role playing game I just don't care about and I don't want to play. I don't like the mechanics, or it doesn't appeal to me, or I'm just in a mood that day. I got up on the wrong side of the bed. But like, that's what that was kind of the challenge I put to myself, was like, you know, fifth edition, but would somebody play this? I don't know. Maybe the audience could let us know whether they think that this is stupid or not. I mean, you can't hurt my feelings. I don't care. Um, uh, I'm not a game designer. So like, I thought, why not make something that's cool, something that has some appeal to it? And how can we best communicate and be those ideas and be clear about them?
Cool.
All right. So then the last part of this is the Titan's Wrath. At 18th level, you become the ultimate embodiment of prehistoric might. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack or an unarmed strike, you can force them to make a strength saving throw with a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength modifier. And then on a failed save, the creature is either knocked prone, pushed 15 feet, or stunned until the end of their next turn, which is your choice. You can choose one of those things to do. And this has a caveat of being, once you use this feature, you can't use it again until a short rest or, of course, a long rest.
Yeah.
And this was something that, like, I wanted to make this comes into the appealing argument I just made. I can't think of a lot of things that require a strength saving throw. Maybe I missed something. I haven't read every book. I haven't looked at every mechanic or rule in D&D, but it seems to me, at least on a cursory surface level examination, there aren't a lot of things that require a strength saving throw. And as a strength-based character who's like biting things and like pushing them around, I thought that might be cool to have your greatest strength be their greatest weakness. And they could really like do some damage with it.
The look of surprise when you headbutt the lich into the volcano.
Yeah. And like I said before, Baldur's Gate 3, huge influence here. I love pushing things, stunning things, trapping things, all sorts of shit. That really appeals to me in that game. So I definitely let it influence the design of this whole ability here. So that's basically it. For the Blood Hunter, the Saurian Order of the Saurian Blood Hunter. I've never actually played a Blood Hunter. The next time I play 5e, I think I am going to try to play one.
I'll allow it in my game.
Maybe even try to do this as well. What did you think overall?
No, I really liked it. I think that, like, I love the dinosaur theme because obviously we're talking about dinosaurs this whole season, so that's exciting. I like the way that the mechanics are suggesting that, like, brutality and bringing in that, like, raw animal sort of power. I can't wait to see the second pass on it. Because I do feel that also, like, there is some thematic mechanic stuff that needs to be tightened up, like given an earlier level and ability to put fear on them, and then they can feed off that. You're right with the question about, like, how often can they use this ability is always really sticky. I feel like it's going more and more to, like, you can do it twice per short rest rather than, like, long rest seems to be kind of moving away, except for, like, pure spellcasters is a thing, because people have a cool ability that defines their character. They want to use it, maybe not every fight.
Yeah.
But, like, they want to use it more than, like, once per game, session. So
right.
I really like it.
Let me ask you this, because in the original design for this, the Predators mark the original third level ability. The one I ended up going with was the increase in movement speed. They have an advantage on survival checks to track creatures, and then when they hit a creature with a weapon attack, they can choose to mark them. The original version of this was to have, at third level, it increases their size category by one step. And I was like, it seems like at third level, that's way too fucking powerful.
Yeah, 5e is so, like, there's a great animated spell book about this. 5e is so scared of, like, size increases because of the way damage and reach and everything sort of, like, mess with bounded accuracy, which is the core design philosophy. So
yeah, and that's not just the thing about 5th edition. In 3rd edition, I mean, that's where the Goliath came from. And the Goliath comes from the fact that, gosh, it gets really, really messy as soon as we give player characters the ability to go to large, size from medium.
Well, 3.5 players are, like, taking monkey grip, casting enlarge on themselves, and then using a gargantuan scale greatsword to do, like, 68 damage or something. So, like, oh, monkey grip, rest in power, King.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's mine. I think we have a great start with that. I'm excited to hear how it gets implemented in your creation. If we have time, I can go into one of the other ones or two of the other ones. I don't know how much time we want to spend on this, but I do really want to hear about your creation.
Okay. Well, then allow me to introduce Tlachtchil, the Maw of the Earth. Obviously, it's got to have an Aztec name because it is a steaming jungle. And yeah, prehistoric jungle. We're going with that whole world vibe. Carnivorous plants, volcanic smoking craters in the jungle, crumbling stone ziggurats. Who knows who built them? Were they there in the original world before it became a demiplane of dread? I don't know. Weird totems. And that's just the vibe. What I did, I want to do a shout out to Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft because that is consistently as a DM's resource, like as a book about design, one of my favorite core 5e books. Because my process was like, I got this silly idea for a Dreadlord, and then I was like, they have the whole thing in the book about the different types of horror. What kind of horror do you want to do? So the two horror themes that I've put into this one are, can you guess what they might be?
Tell me.
Body horror.
Yes.
And folk horror.
Oh, okay. Folk horror. Explain that.
So you know how like you see like Blair Witch Project, they see those little things hanging in the trees and that's scary.
Oh, yeah,
Because it's some weird folk practice, or like that weird Welsh Christmas tradition with like the horse skull that people run around. I won't try to pronounce it. Like, yeah, that's folk horror. The original Wicker Man, that's folk horror. There's like these people have these practices that are very unnerving. A lot of fairy tales are folk horror.
Okay.
Rumpelstiltskin, probably the original one, is probably folk horror. And so basically the way that that comes in Tlachtchil is like the people that live there, the humans that live there, like the jungle changes you. I actually have a little tag quote. In Tlachtchil, the jungle devours what it cannot convert, and what it converts is no longer human.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there's all these weird, bloody, sinew, bone, vine idols people hang up to prevent the change from happening.
Yeah.
And so that's just like the folk horror element is there in the world as well. But the body horror has to do a lot with you can't have a domain of dread without a Dark Lord. And the Dark Lord is Throg'kall, the becoming hunger.
Nice.
Throg'kall was an innocent Allosaurus in whatever jungle-like world this place originally is replicating. And he was awakened by a circle of druids, and the awakening gave him the intelligence of a man, but not the ability to speak. Some failure in the magic left him bereft of a voice. He could mimic like a kinku, but he can't actually like talk. Something prevents him from doing it. And so as his inability to speak caused the druids to become more and more withdrawn and terrified of him, he figured out, using his now vast intellect, that he could consume their minds and their bodies and their souls to try and fix what was wrong with him. And he kept trying to fix it, eating and devouring more and more and more, but it never really worked. And eventually he crossed a line and got pulled into the domain of dread. And now this is one of the domains of dread that, you know, just kind of hang out in the Shadowfell. Yes, he became, what did I write? He became something more than a beast, a god king of claw and vine, nesting atop a ziggurat constructed from the bones of those who once taught him and failed to teach him to speak. His domain grew from his yearning to understand humanity by devouring it, becoming it in flesh and idea.
I
so
love
like
it.
if someone encounters Throg'kall atop his ziggurat, he probably lured them in by mimicking their voices, and he's just up there. He's like tried to make himself close, like out of like flesh and skin, and he's also tried to make himself a new family. So he has he has horrific like bone and sinew and dinosaur part constructions that kind of work for him. But he will never, ever gain the ability to speak, no matter what he does, because he is cursed.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Also, let me scroll down to where I wrote this down. Exposure. The body horror element is exposure. So if a PC is injured by Throg'kall or his creations, or if they spend more than a week in Throg'kall without performing a protective rite, and boy, those rites are bloody and only known to the natives, or if they touched anything cursed or breathe certain mists from funeral, whatever you want to do, or if they participate in rituals that are not tied to the maw. They have to make a Constitution saving throw, and if the DC 13, and if they fail, they start gaining transformation levels. And then so at level 1, you're touched. So you might gain dark vision, but now you have like slitted like raptor eyes. And you are like compelled to consume raw meat or vegetation. So like each level kind of stacks up: touched, altered, claimed. This was very heavily inspired by Trophy.
I was gonna say, one of the things I love most about this is that if this was a module like or a product, I would be like, hey, this is the happy union between Trophy Dark and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons for me. Like putting this down in front of my group and be like, hey guys, for Halloween, we're going to do a Death Spiral D&D game. And it's going to take place in this, because that's totally the vibe I'm getting, is the Death Spiral, the permanent changes to the characters, especially with the body horror. And the only thing I would ask is at this point is it at all possible for the player characters to be able to do something in the game to give him his voice? I know you said it could never he could never get it back, but if you were to write this as like a Curse of Strahd style super adventure, could there be a win condition in which the player characters end up finding a way to give him his voice, and thus that's how you beat the encounter, or I'm sorry, beat the super dungeon?
Yeah, of course. I would also think though, like whenever I think about that in the context of horror, I remember like I forget who it was because I only saw The Ring once, but like when they think they've solved it, and then the kid's like, "You tried to help her? Why would you try to help her? She doesn't stop." Like I think like they would get a moment of reprieve of like, we gave him his voice. His rage is sated. It's just like he's like, now I can cast spells. Like
and then he like traps them in there and then
Yes.
gets himself out.
Yes.
Okay.
Like leaves them to change because he's been planning his escape from the demiplane of dread for millennia, and now they're going to change into something to take his place so he can run free. I don't know. Like,
I love it. Yeah, that would be a great Death Spiral kind of way to like win, but not really win the adventure. Is that, like just like you said, but then the price paid is they're trapped and he gets out, and that's it. You're done. Like that's the only quote unquote win condition. And
you
did
won,
you really
yay.
win?
Brave heroes.
Did you really win? Would you consider, and maybe you've already thought of this, but like, would you consider a series of encounters in which they try to learn how to communicate with him? Like maybe at a distance or under certain kinds of conditions, like through a mirror or something. Like, I think one of the coolest things about him is the Kenku style mimicry. And I'm saying this because you've played a Kenku in a series of short one shots that I did, or no, it was the Eggs of My Kind game. No, that was a turtle. I don't remember which game it was, but you did play a Kenku in somebody's game, and I was there for it. And you did such a great job of the mimicry because you created a series of voice in mimics that he had learned throughout his life, and you kind of use them as like a cooler way, like Bumblebee does in the Transformer movies I've never seen but heard a lot about, that he, ways that he uses to communicate with the group. It was like that. You stuck with him. You didn't invent brand new ones, or at least you didn't make it seem like you did, in order to just solve the communication problem.
Yeah, I had a rule. I was allowed 2 backstory related utterances like per session to keep me from like over solving it. And so like, can I talk about him for a minute just because it's also horrifying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my Kinku, like his name, when people asked him his name, he mimicked the sound of a baby crying. And so everybody called him Crybaby.
Yes,
Like,
that's it.
yeah. And he had grown up in like a very like uh Oliver Twist-esque orphanage in like a like big industrial city. And so like all of his stuff is like all Oliver Twist-esque workhouse characters like speaking to him. And so like there's like a harsh taskmaster in there, and there's like a like everything hopeful that is tinged with sadness was like from a little girl that was like he could never tell you what the story was. I knew.
Mm.
So yeah, like having that mimicry, like being like more of just like you could really lean in, I think, and this would be a fun challenge as a DM to having this Allosaurus in these flesh robes he's very clearly made himself with his weird family, like mimicking things that have been said in the past in front of him,
Yes.
like to add a tinge of like sympathy and
Yes.
like sorrow to it that I
Yes.
think would really surprise the players, considering they're just like, we're facing a Dark Lord who's an Allosaurus. And then like you could actually make it really characterful and make them want to help him, which is the wrong move.
Yes. Yeah. And if I was writing this adventure, I would put in that when like I put in a guide for mimicking. Like what words does he know? And then some tooltip style prompts to help the GM either make it their own, or it's like, hey, if you don't want to make this your own, here's a guide to how to do some of his mimics. Like do this one with your worst, best Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation,
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of stuff. Like use stuff from pop culture that the player or the DM might know about, or at least could go watch a YouTube video. Actually, it'd be really cool to like make a YouTube video, like doing the mimic sounds for the DM to kind of show them what it is. Like show a clip from a movie, and then this is how we do it, right? It's kind of like a special add-on, but that's what I would be tempted to do is like, here's how they communicate with him. Here's all of his prompts. Here's the things he knows. Here's how to use them. And here's a very brief one-liner guide on how to use each one and what it should sound like. But feel free to scrap that and do your own thing if you want. That's you're doing it correctly, no matter what.
Yes. He periodically says things like, "We won't let ourselves be defeated by this great lizard. My God, Curtis, where are your legs?" Like,
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it.
one couple changes, like to like one big change, because one of the things I always have is like, what does the Dark Lord do to control the mists when he wants to lock it down? And this one, like huge clouds of like pollen that cause hallucinations and fugue states, like basically like start surround the borders of the land, and if you pass through them, like you can't, like you just get like come back hallucinating, maybe changed, unless you can learn the appropriate blood sacrifice ritual, which might involve like taking off one of your own fingers or something, and then like what grows from the stump, I don't know. I'll make a table for people to put in there.
Yes.
And then, of course, like for, I would almost want to be like, if I was running this as its own little adventure in this. And this is another
Mhm.
cool option in Van Richten's, that it's just like, if you're running an adventure that's just this is kind of the world and the setting. You can still use the basic classes, but it's kind of themed this way. So like,
Oh, cool.
this is like a Venetian city. People are in finery, blah, blah, blah. They're still barbarians and whatever and fighters, but that's this. I feel like this would be more like a no gunpowder, but really great analog of like British Age of Exploration. Like,
Yeah, okay.
like making a party of like overconfident, spoiled dandies who don't know the jungle and welcome through this green hell that will try to eat you or spit out something different that it
Yes.
approves of more.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, that is all really working for me. And the normal thing that usually happens when you pitch an idea, I want to play in this game.
I want to run this game.
Yeah.
Like,
So definitely keep me in mind for running this game. I would love to do it. Um Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm looking at the time. I think we've got our episode there with just these two things. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to it? Were there any other things that you created? Should we stretch this into another segment, or maybe even offer it as a bonus episode in the future? The other creations.
Well, this is my main thing. I don't really have any others. So like I'd be happy to talk. We can talk about yours and maybe put it out as a bonus episode in the future. Also,
Okay.
I'm going to try as I work on this. It's really raw. It's just some high level notes right now. I want to stat out the big boy himself and like what
That
his
would be cool.
horrible flesh creations are. And so I'd like to eventually, maybe we can put this up. You know, if we keep working on these, we can put them up on the site and people can snag them and use them in their own game if they want to. So,
Yeah, for sure. And listener, if any of this was interesting, appealing, thought provoking for you, if you enjoyed anything in this episode, leave some comments below. Be like, yes, we want more. We would love to hear about more of these things. If you have ideas, if you have questions, please leave those in the comments. Jesse, we probably have an email address as well if people want to reach out to us.
It's jauntymantis@gmail.com.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could get in touch with us that way as well. What a weird thing.
I know. Writing an electronic mail.
For sure. For sure. Well, Jesse, this has been a lot of fun. I thought, when we put our heads together, we always come up with cool shit. And I'm not surprised that the thing that I ended up talking about has a place in the thing that you're talking about. And I hope that, we can merge these two concepts together, because I would love to develop them together as one concept.
Yeah, maybe the blood hunter, it's a curse and he's got to go find the source of, I know what the source is.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Jaunty Mantis, right, Jesse?
That is it for this episode of the Jaunty Mantis. So get out there and let the soporific fumes of the jungle change you into something no longer human, something of scale and claw, and then use your blood to give yourself T-Rex teeth. Or don't. I mean,
that's right.
Your life.
Keep playing those fucking role-playing games.